Chapter 6, NutriMe Nutrition. And this is a training about the personalized micronutrients based on a genetic profile. This is an add-on product. If you have not seen the training for the DNA Nutri-Control package, please do watch that before, especially the one for the nutrition sensor, because the nutrition sensor tests more than 50 genes to find out certain aspects of your body, and we need this information to be able to create this personalized supplement. And so please do watch this training before. And in the layout of the different supplements, you will find it here. So it's below the nutrition sensor, and it's available for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, as well as long-term subscriptions. Now, just to summarize it, here we look at very many different genetic variants that increase your risk for certain diseases or certain metabolic problems. And just to quickly summarize it again, we look at bone health, anything to do with osteoporosis risk, calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, eye health, macular degeneration, heart health, cholesterol and homocysteine and all of these blood levels, food intolerance such as gluten and lactose intolerance, joint health where the immune system is too aggressive and attacks joints, mental health, metabolism health, hemochromatosis, that's the balance of how much iron your body stores, mental health, that's Alzheimer's disease, where you need more antioxidants, and detoxification of heavy metals and toxic substances. So all of these areas are covered by NutriMe Nutrition, and we make sure that we get the right balance of nutrients to balance out any deficiencies that a person might have genetically in these areas. And now let me give you a few examples. There's incredibly much science behind this, and this is just supposed to give you an overview of how it works with a few good examples. So I'm going to talk you through a few examples now. So an example of a micronutrient needed in higher doses for some people based on genetics. The GPX1 gene produces the GPX1 enzyme, and this enzyme is unable to work unless it gets selenium. And selenium is a trace element in food, and this selenium is integrated, and then this enzyme is active. It can recognize free radicals and neutralize them. Now, free radicals, as I've explained in other trainings, are toxic chemicals that are produced by our metabolism, and they start damaging things unless they are recognized by enzymes or antioxidants and neutralized. So, as long as the GPX gene is functional and you have selenium, you are protected from a certain type of free radicals. In people that have selenium deficiency, so too little selenium, we know that not enough of these enzymes are activated, so you only have maybe 30% activity and you lack protection. This is why selenium deficiency is unhealthy, one part of it. If you then increase the amount of selenium to the normal amount, more of them are activated and you have a higher protection, and that is why having enough selenium is important. So far so good, that is why you need selenium. There is, however, a genetic variation in this gene that changes the blueprint of this enzyme. So it's built in a slightly different way. And this leads to the enzyme still accepting selenium and recognizing free radicals, but it's binding less strongly. So the function of the enzyme is a lot weaker. Let's say in this example 50% less. So what happens, even if you have normal amounts of selenium, with the genetic variation you have low activity, because this mutation of this genetic variation is just interrupting the function. And what is very interesting, scientists have found that if you then increase the amount of selenium not to the normal amounts, but to far above the normal amounts, that you can rescue some of the function. So you can increase the amount of activity again. And this here is the gene, so it's the GPX1 gene. If you don't know what this type of table means, please do watch Simple Disease Risk Statistics as training. That will really explain it to you. I will quickly go through it with you again. This is the gene, this is what it does. There are 3 different genetic result possibilities. It It just means every person has 2 copies of this gene, one from father, one from your mother, and we just look at one genetic variation in this gene. That's where people differ, and having a C here on both genes would mean that both genes work. You have good protection from free radicals. Having a T here means both of them are kind of broken or inhibited, so you have less protection, or you can have a G and a T. So these are the 3 different possibilities, and this is how common they are. So 67% around you, people around you of the general population have CC, and 7% have TT. And this here is the science behind it. So in case you're a scientist and you're interested, you can check out these scientific publications that have shown these effects. So what is the logic that we do with supplement dosing? We check out the GPX1 gene. We know it's functional, so you need the normal recommended daily allowances of selenium, and your cells are protected. Then, if you have a genetic variation, we know your enzymes work less well. We know that we need a lot higher dose to achieve the same effect. So we would go far above the recommended daily allowance and increase the amount to make sure that you still get protection from your cells. And this is actually a very important aspect, because some people say, why do a genetic test? Why not do a blood test and measure how much selenium is in this person's blood, and then if it's too little, increase the amount. The problem is that this is really not a personalized approach, because you would expect that this is the normal range of selenium in blood. So here's 0, this is the normal range. So a person with a blood test would say, if you're down here, you need more. If you're up here, you need less, because this is the good range. They assume that for everybody, this same range applies. And that's the problem. That's exactly what we see here, because some people need the normal range, that's the ones on the left side, and others should be far above because of the genetic variation. So really, you can't normalize everybody to the same amounts of selenium, but you need to check out the genetics behind it to find out what the requirement is. And you cannot do this from a blood test unless you test genes. Okay, so here we've seen a genetic variation modifies how much of one substance I need. I might need more, I might need less. Then an example of how a micronutrient might have no effect at all. And this is Coenzyme Q10. This substance is something that is in a lot of beauty creams, because beauty creams do try to fight aging. Coenzyme Q10 might have no effect when I swallow it. However, there's a gene which produces an enzyme that modifies Q10 into ubiquinol. And ubiquinol is a very strong antioxidant, which means it grabs onto free radicals and neutralizes them. So free radicals are part of the reason for aging. That's why Coenzyme Q10 is in beauty creams, to combat free radicals, because it's converted. Alright, so this here is the gene, and if we look at it, 66% have a functional enzyme, 30% have only one of the 2 functioning, and 4% don't have a functioning enzyme. So what happens is the following. This gene is completely non-functional. Q10 is swallowed, or it comes in through the skin cream, and then it has no function. Cannot neutralize free radicals. So this also means 4% of all women that are taking Coenzyme Q10 supplements, maybe for half their life, and it's also a very expensive supplement, have done it completely for nothing, because the body could not convert it. And more importantly, the protection they were hoping to get from it, they are lacking extremely, because the body also produces some Coenzyme Q10 and can also not convert this. So what can you do if you know that this gene is defective through a genetic test? For one thing, you can use ubiquinol. So you don't swallow the Q10, but the already activated ubiquinol to combat free radicals. That's one approach. An alternative approach is use other antioxidants in higher amounts that can also grab free radicals. So really, Q10 is a good idea for some people. It's non-functional for others, and they might need other substances in higher amounts to counteract the missing effect through this missing gene. So the logic again is, if NQR1 is working, produces the enzyme, we use Q10 as an antioxidant. If it's mutated, Q10 is not going to work, we use ubiquinol or any of the other antioxidants to protect the cells. It's a different approach, different nutrients needed to achieve the same thing based on genetic differences. Alright, so we've seen some people need more of something than others due to genetics. We've also seen some people don't react to one thing, they need something else due to genetics. So these two aspects have already been explained. Now here, let's look at calcium requirement, because when people think about calcium, they say, oh, healthy bones. It's true, but that's only a very small part of the many roles that calcium has in our body. And the amount of calcium we should take, there's a recommended daily allowance that some institutions have determined. They say 800 milligrams for everybody. And now let's look at the genetic differences in the calcium requirement. Factor 1, lactose intolerance. A lactose tolerant person can eat milk products. It means they have a genetic variation so that their digesting system for milk sugar is not switched off with age. So they are lactose tolerant, they tend to eat more milk products, they tend to eat generally more calcium through the diet. And if the recommended daily allowance as determined is 800 milligrams, and this person through his nutrition eats 600 milligrams, then he would be lacking 200 milligrams per day to achieve the amount that these institutions have deemed the right amount. So a lactose tolerant person with a genetic variant should eat 200 milligrams of calcium to reach the optimal amount. Then there is a genetic variation that makes people lactose intolerant. That means they cannot digest milk products and they tend to avoid them. And scientific studies have shown that people that do not eat enough or that are lactose intolerant, they ingest significantly less calcium. So they are going to require a lot more calcium to reach the recommended amount. So again, the tendency or the genetic variant that causes you to be lactose intolerant has an effect on how much calcium you need to reach your optimal amount. So that was the first factor of lactose intolerance. So we test your genes, we find out you have the tendency for lactose intolerance, we increase the amount of calcium, while for other people we don't need to. Second factor, osteoporosis, healthy bones, as I've said. Now, the general concept is bone density increases with age up to the age of 25, 30, and then it starts to decrease again. And this is completely normal. Probably has something to do with Stone Age time only being the general lifespan that we had in Stone Age was around age 30, so it increased until age 30, and then we died of some other reasons like a saber-toothed tiger. Now we're living to 3 times that age, and so the bone density starts to decrease again with age, which is completely normal. However, some people have genetic variations that speed up this effect. So that in higher ages they first go to osteopenia, weaker bones, and then eventually osteoporosis, where bones can break with minor impacts and so on. And the important thing is prevention in osteoporosis is very effective, and it's virtually the only effective thing, because lost bone mass is usually lost forever. It's hard, if not impossible, to increase bone mass again. So you want to reduce loss rather than be left with the problem of not being able to get it back. Now, the European Food Safety Agency says the recommended daily allowance is 800 milligrams. There are some scientific studies that have looked at older people, and they gave them 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day, and then looked at those people in 5 years later and checked the ones that got the calcium, how much did their bone mineral density decrease compared to other people which got a placebo or a mint, maybe. So they found that really if you get this amount of calcium, 1,200 milligrams as a supplement, you have a better protection from your bones than if you don't. So we know from scientific studies that 1,200 milligrams would be a very nice number. However, the European Food Safety Agency says 800 milligrams. There's a discrepancy. So what we do is we test your genetic risk for osteoporosis. If your risk is low, normal risk, the normal amount is going to be sufficient, so you get 800 milligrams. However, if we know that you have a 6-fold higher risk of developing osteoporosis, the normal amount, the normal things won't apply to you because your risk is not normal but much higher. So what we would then do is we go for the amounts that we know from studies are effective. So in this case, depending on your risk, you would have a higher dosage or lower dosage depending on your genetics. Okay, so this is lactose intolerance, osteoporosis. The next question is detoxification of heavy metals. Now, there is a genetic test that we do where we can find out phase 2 detoxification that removes heavy metals. And lead is one of these heavy metals that is very toxic to the human body. And thankfully, we have a number of genes that protect us from this. So they produce enzymes that recognize lead, modify it enzymatically, and this neutralizes it and removes it from the body. So if this toxic substance gets into our body, it's neutralized. It's then removed by the kidneys. However, as you can guess, if you have genetic variations or errors in these genes, these don't function and lead is not neutralized. And this can then cause lead poisoning, can cause cancer and be very unhealthy for your body. Now, scientific studies have shown that calcium has the ability to bind lead. And if you have low levels of lead that are continuously rising because you don't have this detoxification system, then calcium can bind to lead and then neutralize it through your body. I have to say, this does not mean that if you have acute lead poisoning and you take a calcium supplement that this is going to solve the problem. Calcium only binds lead very weakly. So if you have acute poisoning, you need a chelation therapy by a doctor. So this is not a replacement for this. However, if you know that you have bad detoxification of lead, you can use calcium to keep the levels in check. So more calcium would be beneficial if you have bad lead detoxification. So now we've seen 3 factors, and let me tell you, there are many more that influence calcium, but just these 3 factors are influenced by genetics. So how can we find the right dose? Just as a simplified system, the recommended daily allowance would be 800 milligrams. Then if the person is not lactose intolerant, has no osteoporosis risk and no limited detoxification, so everything else is in order, this person would be recommended the normal recommended daily allowance. However, if the person is lactose intolerant, then we would have to compensate for the less calcium he takes in through food, so we would add a little bit of calcium. Then osteoporosis is not a problem, and limited detoxification as well, so we would add a little calcium as well. So this person would eat more calcium because of some genetic problems. Another genetic problem would need to lead to another dose, and if all of the genes say we need a lot of calcium, it would be the full dose that we know from scientific studies to be effective. Alright, so this is the general concept. We look at lots of different aspects, we combine them together, and then we decide how much calcium does this person really need. Then an example how a micronutrient can have a different effect. One effect in one person, a different effect in another person. That's also a very interesting story. A common situation that happens is a person with low HDL cholesterol, that's a good cholesterol, talks to the doctor, and the doctor says, yeah, we need to fix this. I would recommend using omega-3 supplements. These are these fish oil capsules. Fish oil contains omega-3. And this tends to improve the HDL cholesterol levels. So taking the supplement tends to be beneficial. However, it's controversial because some studies have absolutely shown this is the case. Other studies have shown they're not so convinced. And it really tends to be different from study to study. So some people are questioning if this is really the case. Because if another person would come to this doctor and the doctor says, yeah, you have low HDL cholesterol, I just had a patient, it worked perfectly for him, you should do the same. This person takes omega-3 supplements and suddenly the HDL cholesterol becomes worse. So the same substance is improving the HDL cholesterol in one person and makes it worse in the other. And actually, from my genetic test, I know that I'm here. So HDL cholesterol is getting worse from omega-3 fatty acids for me, but it's getting better for other people. Now the question is why? And there's a genetic variation in the ApoA1 gene. And scientists have found AA genotypes improve HDL cholesterol with omega-3, and GG genotypes, which is what I have, it becomes worse. So persons with the AA genotype can be recommended to use omega-3 to improve the cholesterol, and people with the GG genotype should not take omega-3 supplements, but they should use phytosterols. It's a kind of alternative to omega-3, which also improves cholesterol. And in that case, improves it as well. So you can achieve the same thing with different substances, and one substance might be good for one person and bad for another person. That's also something that people don't consider. So this is really the big difference in nutrigenetics, why people are so unique and different. Now, what dosage is optimal of omega-3 fatty acids? So the recommended daily allowance would be 250 milligrams, but based on studies, the ones that we've seen are effective is 1,000 to 2,900 milligrams. So again, the EFSA, the European Food Safety Agency, says 250 milligrams is optimal for everybody. We know from one study it's 1,500, another study 1,000 milligrams, and another 2,900. We've seen that these are all beneficial amounts. So what we do is, if you don't have an increased risk and an increased amount, you would get the normal amount. And if we know that you really do need more omega-3, we would go in the range of where we know that studies have shown that they are effective. So looking at HDL cholesterol and omega-3, this is kind of like the logic. It's simplified, but kind of like the logic. First, we check the genes that would make your HDL cholesterol worse. If they're all okay, we know you don't have a predisposition to bad HDL cholesterol. So that's okay. Then the next question is, we check the ApoA1 gene. Is omega-3 good for your HDL cholesterol? If yes, then you would get the normal amount of omega-3. So far so good. If, however, we know the genes are okay, but omega-3 is going to make cholesterol worse, then we would not use omega-3 but phytosterols as an alternative to improve cholesterol. But only very small amounts. However, if we know that the genes are not okay, that they predispose you to very bad HDL cholesterol levels, then the next question is omega-3 good? If yes, we give you a lot of omega-3 to combat the effect of these genes. If the ApoA1 gene says omega-3 is bad, then we would not use omega-3 but large amounts of phytosterols. So really, by looking at these different genes, there are different pathways that you go to achieve the same thing. So there are a lot of genes that play into it, and substances react differently, so it's a lot of complicated know-how and algorithms behind these things, and this is the general concept. So I've given you a few examples. These were about 10 different genes, and we're testing more than 50 genes that have an influence on lots of different aspects of your body. And the aim of this product is to take all of this into account. So in mine in here, I have a high risk of Alzheimer's disease, so I have lots of antioxidants in here, and I have omega-3 fatty acids make my cholesterol worse, so I don't have any omega-3 fatty acids in here. However, for other people it's more. Some people have more calcium, others do not. So this is highly personalized. And to give you an idea, when we analyze more than 50 different genes, we can dose 20 different micronutrients, more than 20 different micronutrients based on your genes, more for you, less for someone else. And we have more than 700 trillion different recipe options. This is how unique your genetic profile is. This is how many possible different options there are. And you will have your name on here. So this is produced specifically for one person with your name on here. You see the bars here, it says how much of each substance is in here. And each nutrient mixture is unique unless you are a monozygotic twin, which would mean you have the same genes, the same age, and the same sex, so those would really get the same product, but all of the others would have a different product. And here's actually where you see the bars, how much of each of the substance you have. So another question is, since we know how much calcium you need, how much vitamin C, D, and E, and so on you need, how can you follow these requirements? And really, standard products are going to make it difficult, because you might find one that has the right amount of vitamin C if you take 2.5 pills, but then you have too much of the other thing, and it might have omega-3 in it, which you don't want, and so on. So standard products are not going to, you're not going to find a standard product that is going to cover your needs. And personalized mixed capsules, gelatin capsules, have a number of drawbacks. For one, they're very expensive to produce, and for the other, there are different substances that fight against each other to be taken up, like calcium and zinc. If you mix them together as powders, it's only going to be calcium that's taken up, and the zinc is blocked by the calcium, is not taken up. So mixing powders together in capsules is also not a good solution. And what we have is the microtransporter technology. So we have, as you can see here, lots of small little pellets. And I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but there are lots of different colored, different types of pellets. And each one of them contains one vitamin. So one for vitamin C, a different one for vitamin E, one for vitamin A, and so on. And we find out what your requirements are. And for me, it's lots of antioxidants, so I get lots of vitamin C, lots of vitamin E, and lots of alpha-lipoic acid. And all of these are mixed together in different concentrations. And then I have the spoon, which I've shown you. And for me, it's 8 milliliters of pellets. For someone else, it's 5, and so on. So it really differs. And these pellets is what I should ingest. And these pellets also have another advantage. They are slow release, because especially in the case of vitamin C, vitamin C has a half-life of 30 minutes, meaning if I swallow 100 milligrams of vitamin C and I absorb it into my bloodstream, half an hour later I've got 50, half an hour later I've got 25 milligrams, half an hour later 12 milligrams. So the vitamin C is broken down very, very quickly. And slow release pellets have the advantage that they contain the vitamin C and they release it to your body gradually over the course of around 8 hours. So your body continuously receives vitamin C, even though it's broken down quickly, it's continuously supplied with more. Actually, talking about vitamin C, a very interesting story. Mammals, any animals that drink milk as babies, and we are part of mammals, virtually all mammals can produce vitamin C in their cells. The only exception being humans and monkeys. And the interesting fact about this is that when we look into our genome, that we would have a vitamin C producing gene, however, it has been mutated, it's broken, it's no longer functional. And mice, on the other hand, they have the same gene, but it works and it produces vitamin C for them, so they don't need to eat it through diet. And it is thought that our ancestors, human apes, our ancestors used to be normal mammals, and then they became tree-dwelling apes, and there they had a lot of vitamin C all around them. So they ate fruit, which was full of vitamin C. And suddenly they were no longer dependent on producing their own vitamin C because they got it all day long. So this is what usually happens in nature. If something is not required, it can mutate because genetic mutations happen. They disable a gene, and if it's no disadvantage to the organism that it's lost this function, then it's lost because its offspring will also have lost it, and eventually they all have lost it. So we no longer require the vitamin C gene because our ancestors, our monkey ancestors, and they then got their vitamin C through diet. And then the climate has changed, and they came down from the tree and started running around in the savannah, and they started using tools and catching animals, and they just changed their diet over time, so that suddenly they didn't have all the vitamin C anymore that their ancestors had. And this now then led to them to be chronically deficient in vitamin C because they're just lacking that enzyme now that would produce it for them. And this is why monkeys and humans have the problem of not producing their own vitamin C and being reliant on getting enough through their nutrition, while mice and cows and so on, they can all produce their own vitamin C. Okay, back to the actual topic. So we've got the slow release pellets that give it to your body gradually, and the other advantage is these blocking agents, as I've explained. With calcium and zinc mixed together are going to block each other in absorption. So the advantage here is one pellet is going to contain calcium, the other one contains zinc, and then calcium is here in the intestine and releases calcium, which is absorbed. Zinc is here and releases zinc, and thereby they don't block each other. So it's increased bioavailability. Recommendations for taking this, I take it in the mornings, so you just take a spoonful, you know which amount it is. I personally just put it in my mouth, drink it with water. It's tasteless. You shouldn't bite down on them because some of the vitamins have bad taste. So you just swallow it and then you're done with it. Other people that I know of, they mix it with yogurt, and since they're slow release, they don't dissolve so quickly. But you shouldn't wait for them to dissolve, because then it's just a mashup of different substances and it wouldn't taste too nice. I wouldn't take it in the evenings. Some people, it has some vitamin C, for me it's quite a lot. Some people react, it reacts or it causes invigoration, some people. So people can't sleep because it stimulates them when they have a lot of vitamin C. So I personally couldn't take it at evening because it would give me trouble sleeping, but it's great in the morning to wake up with a boost of vitamin C and other vitamins. So I would recommend to take it once per day, either in the mornings or at lunchtime. And of course you can try it in the evening if it's no problem, fine. Otherwise I would not take it in the evenings. Okay, so that's the end of chapter number 6, NutriMe Nutrition, which is a personalized micronutrient based on your genetics, and it's as unique as your own genetic profile. And this is supposed to support your nutrigenetic test in helping you make sure that you get the right amount of the right substances.